Welcome to the Human Up Podcast. My name's Dave Marlon, your host, and today it's a huge honor to have Melissa Marlon-Maini as our featured guest. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks.
So happy you're here. Now, Melissa is a master educator for over 20 years and teaching mostly fourth grade. She's also you're a black belt, and you've taken a variety of courses in mindfulness. You serve on your mosquito abatement commission for like a decade. You've also been the commissioner of the volunteer fire department for how long, Melissa?
I think that's 13 years.
13
it's not a volunteer department anymore. Now it's paid.
Now paid. Okay. But so a ton of service work there in your community. You're also a wife of coming on 30 years?
Something like that.
And a mom of 4 amazing boys and my sister, which is super special.
Right.
So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you, David.
I appreciate you coming on here and having a chat. And to me, if I have my wishes, you and our conversations almost always get deep. They get real and raw. So to me, of any guest I've had, I'm kind of most excited to talk to you, really because of the type of relationship we have, which I value so much. Let's open up with a softball. What was it like growing up with Dave?
Funny you should ask. Jenny and I were just talking about that, and we blamed you for all the mistakes we made. However, without those little hiccups growing up, like, drinking at age 14 or, and actually drinking blackberry brandy, she reminded me of. Why we gave her that, I don't know. Just a mistake. We learned from those mistakes. Growing up was exciting. You were the leader. You were absolutely the leader, as you still are. We were latchkey kids. So the three of us stuck together. And I think you and I'm being the middle child. I went both directions, but I gravitated to the more mature choices that you would make, whether it was sneaking out or going to a party or, just building forts on the beach when we were really little. I think my childhood was book worthy.
I agree. And I am so grateful that you and I, and even Jenny, that we're each 2.5 years apart, because it really allowed some independence, but a closeness as a family unit, which, granted, it's the only one I know, but it to me, I have fond memories, and it seems like it was perfect.
Right. And now that we're older and we can wisely look at other families and notice the way other families work, we could still see what was really great about our family. And I could attest to this conversation in this format today, where we are both located, is proof that our childhood was phenomenal.
Right. Now, despite our mom being a Holocaust survivor who came with her traumas, but to me, I credit mom for my work ethic. I think of all of my childhood, to me, mom was there. So while you and Jenny might blame me for some of the problems, I have no blame for mom. I find, mom, operated, trying to instill integrity, trying to be the best mom, always having food, always.
Yeah.
Granted, I underappreciated how hard of a job she had.
Right.
But I think mom was amazing. What was it like growing up with the child of a Holocaust survivor?
Well, obviously the progression of understanding the trauma of the Holocaust and being a child of someone that survived the Holocaust, there's so much There are so many studies now that show the simplest things that we do were impacted by the way. I believe our mom, she was obviously a survivor. She survived the Holocaust, but the term, if you're a survivor, you're a different person. You do things, you assimilate greater, you're more flexible, faster, because you know your life depends on it. And since mom's birth all the way until she was 15 coming to America, she knew to assimilate was the way to go. And so when you're raised with that as your foundation, you do a lot of things that aren't particularly healthy when you're just trying to fit in as quickly as possible without maintaining, building your own core identity and your own value system, which is where I thank our father, because I feel as though mom was a boots on the ground. She worked her butt off, and that's what she was great at. But it's dad's thinking that allows us to regulate and understand that, wait a minute, am I just responding to this emotion, or am I just doing what I've always done? Like, let's stop and take a deeper look at it. And I think that comes from dad's side. I'm not saying that mom's side doesn't have great intelligence, which is what that comes from. But because of the Holocaust, it was crushed. It was destroyed.
Wow.
Because of the trauma.
That's so insightful. And to me, all right, I got my money's worth right already. That was perfect. That understanding. Now, you also grew up with dad. And when I was writing, trying to classify dad, I put businessman.
Oh, that's kind. Yeah. Yeah. He's a sociopathic criminal as well. And unfortunately, society would look at that first because he's, Matt Marlon, and he was a criminal. However, he was my father, our father. We loved him dearly. We played hard. We played, cards and took walks and talks, and you built businesses with him, and I got ideas from him and was always inspired. I realized later in life that I'm not a disappointment because I became just a teacher. I am disappointed in myself if I think I just go to work. I don't. I breathe and sleep and dream about teaching.
You're right. Yeah, you're a teacher.
And we were on vacation, and I'm like, ooh, we were playing a game. I'm like, ooh, this is a great opportunity to teach just a million things from playing. And I believe that dad was always passionate, extraordinarily passionate about the ideas that he was brewing to make a living, as harmful as they were to a community. That's what he did as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I would actually take back, dad to me was fundamentally a business person. Now I agree he had sociopathic traits, and he engaged in activities that harmed others. However, to me, fundamentally, it was always about whatever business he was doing. And he did have some great talents at seeing businesses, the needs for them, forming them, building them, running them, operating them, which were all things done in a non-criminal fashion. Although anytime something came close to the line, to me, the lines that you and I are encumbered by in part of a legal and as an ethical system, those weren't things that he was encumbered by, perhaps due to a sociopathic mind, perhaps due to a diseased perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But within that diatribe I just made, to me, what was kind of giving him some credit that he did do, whether it was his car business or his restaurant or his video game manufacturing or
Real estate.
fantasy fun where, he fundamentally built a business and was operating it.
Mhm.
I remember when he made perfume with a genuine bovine extract that he was so excited by.
Yeah.
And there was title companies, there were jewelries, there was so many different businesses.
Medical supplies, solar panels,
Oh,
heart
right.
foundation.
The mechanical company.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's book worthy.
No, agreed. Now, you mentioned you're fundamentally a teacher.
Yes.
And you have this, is it called place-based learning?
Place-based learning. Yes, it's quite popular. Actually, it's probably old at this point. Place-based learning is using the environment that you have to teach.
Oh, okay. Now, I'm a clinician, as you know, and I find experiential therapy is often much more effective and impactful than classroom or group room therapy.
Absolutely.
Is that what place-based is based on?
Yeah. Place-based. So you build your curriculum to meet the standards based on, I can only use the examples I use. So I teach a giant fire program with our fire department about our wilderness and the urban wilderness interface that we live in. And so I can teach math, social studies, science, reading, writing, Spanish, technology, health. What are the other topics that we all are?
Okay, all within that fire prevention,
right? And we're on site. We're at the fire department. We are in the forest. We have all kinds of incredible. The wealth of knowledge in a fire department is incredible, especially rural, because rural fire departments, you might have a team of 2, but they know everything. They can do extraction, rappelling, house structure, EMT, paramedic, they're everything. So, why not have them teach? So that's the way that works. And you then have the opportunity to show children, like, this could be your job. They didn't even know these jobs existed.
Right.
So place-based, and again, I mentioned in my bio that the mosquito abatement, everyone's like, the mosquito abatement, the number one animal that kills people in the world is the mosquito. So let me explain that first. So put it in perspective. There are 4 people that die by elephants, and there are like close to 500,000 people a year that die from a mosquito. Our scientists on site at the mosquito abatement and the process of keeping your community safe because of the fire department, mosquito abatement, even the library is another part of a community, which is going to nicely cycle into your human up and the purpose of this whole conversation, because a whole community is, it takes every person to make it whole.
Right. Wow. What we didn't talk about that I always admired about you is I remember when you first left and you became a sign painter in the Bronx. Could you tell me that story?
Sure. You forgot? Okay. So yes, I did. I left the house and attempted college, but I did not have the not self-awareness. I didn't have the confidence to go to college. So I went to work, and I got an apartment in the Bronx. It was end of the 6th line off Hutchinson River Parkway. And I got an apartment there. And at the downstairs, the lower level of the apartment is a woman named Dottie Poggi, and she's .T signs. And she was a journeyman letterer, hand lettering, gold leafing, hand lettering. This is 1980. Was it 85? 84, 1984. So hand lettering in the Bronx was like, ham, 99 cents a pound, truck lettering, boat lettering. There was so many signs, paper signs, supermarket signs. And so she taught me to hand letter. I quit my other job, which was, I was a barmaid somewhere. And And I started hand lettering and I loved it. And then eventually I branched out and moved over the bridge to College Point, had some babies, got married in that order. And actually had the one. And I kept hand lettering, and I still hand letter. I hand letter many signs in my community, inside my building at school. Murals are on the walls of the local bakery, inside the fire department, a massive mural. And I have a plan, which I didn't even mention, to hand paint with my son, Dylan, who's an artist. Actually, all my kids are artists, but he could do mural painting, a water tower. So the only thing that's slowing me down is that we're probably going to get another water tower. So I would letter this water tower. Yeah. So I'm a sign painter by trade. However, people use computers now, but sign lettering is an art.
Oh,
It's
that's
great.
so beautiful.
Yeah. I lettered inside your house once. Return with honor.
You did. I love that, in the garage that I came home to each day, and it helped me raise my son. Because it never, almost every lesson that happens in school or bullying or what have you, will come home, the answer is return with honor.
Mm-hmm.
So that was beautiful. You also did some signs here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That I would drive up and down the strip and be like,
yeah.
My sister hand lettered that.
Yeah. Yeah. I also did some channel letting on Sierra Health Services on a giant crane and rammed the crane into the stucco wall and broke it. And then I learned how to stucco.
Wow.
Yeah. There were several murals, but they finally, this is over 25 years ago that I lettered there. But yeah, I love sign painting.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's good.
Boy, we can go so many different directions right now. Let me ask you, your brother, instead of lettering, is I'm a journeyman in helping solve homelessness. Mm-hmm. And that's my job right now, as you know. Mm-hmm. And I work each day to do interventions to get people off the street, to bring people into treatment, to address serious mental illnesses or substance use disorders, which is primarily our challenge. Do you have a homeless issue in your town?
Well, there was a homeless man that showed up on the corner, and everybody stopped and asked, what are you doing? What's going on? What do you need? And he wasn't homeless. He lived in an apartment temporarily. He was disabled, and he set up a spot on the corner, right in the corner
by the stinker station.
In the stinker station, and I stopped and was immediately like, "What are you doing? What do you do? What are you doing? You're going to freeze. You can't park. You can't live here." He had no car. You can't live here. What do you need? And he told me his story, and he was there for several days, just making money to move along. And he had, it was just a way for him to make money.
Right.
He was not, I didn't ask if he was a drug addict. He didn't appear to be, and he showed up in a timely way. And I watched him use his card. He was elderly. He was an elderly man that, he alluded to being somewhat in the military, but it never really made sense. Probably had mental illness. However, I didn't, I just wanted to make sure he was safe and let him know that, you can't be homeless in Donnelly. We do have many children that are considered homeless, but they're considered homeless when they live with their grandparents. So
as a kid who lived with his grandparents in 6th grade, as well as my first year, I guess I, was homeless sometimes too.
Yeah.
Our parents were like 19 or 20 when they had me, and I'm going to say ill-equipped to raise children.
Without a doubt. But they didn't have the means. They didn't have the money. They didn't know what they were doing. They were still in college at the time. So.
Right. In the mid 60s.
Right. So I think that I often think Donnelly is a little little version of every other city in the world. So when we had one homeless person, I talked to 3 other people that day that I said, "Did you see the homeless guy?" And they said, "Yeah, I talked to him." They all thought, like everybody I know, like the fire department, they're like,
what's going on?
Water,
you can't be here. The winter will kill you.
You can't, right. And so if Las Vegas could go step back to, I mean, we've always had transients kind of coming through and moving out, but homelessness, the hobo with the stick in the thing because of the railroad. I mean, there's always been that, but when it changed over to extraordinary drug addicts, that whether that came and then mental illness or extreme mental illness from whatever causes that in our culture, something changed. And if we could go back to that time, I would say that you as a community member, whoever is watching this video, whoever I speak to, they're part of your community. So if you have someone that is in need or hurting in your community, help them. And how can you help them? I asked him, do you need something? And yeah, she was trying to get to $300. I'm like, I don't have any money. I'm going to work. I'm not giving him any money to do that. And when I asked where he lived and he told me he has a home, I'm like, okay, so he has a family. He has a place to sleep. You are the one who taught me, don't give them money, because then they're just repeating that behavior. And the behavior is going out and begging for money. It's Pavlovian. It's just
right.
So, yeah. So as a community, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody should unite and attack the streets and everybody tap on a person's shoulder and go, look, I can wash your hair. I can get you a new outfit. And, can I teach you how to clean up dog poop in my yard? Or I'm saying some can only do very, very low level repetition type activities. From the homeless I saw when I worked the last 2 summers in Las Vegas, and I would bring out a water bottle and a Red Bull, and then I'd go out later to check them and the water was left.
Right.
So I'm like, that didn't help. So,
I love your message. Your message is that as part of community, it's not accepting homelessness and immediately recognize it when it happens, and going out and approaching that. And this human, hey, you cannot be here. What do we need to do as a community to help you?
Right.
And if it's $300, I want to check that.
Exactly.
Let's dig a little and find out what's going on, especially because unfortunately with substance use disorders is that they'll almost never tell you that I need to get fentanyl. No matter how many questions you ask them, they're going to work very hard to prove to you that that's not the issue. That's why I love having an immediate access clinic where people could come in and we could test them and then treat them.
Right. That's key.
I'm really at an interesting spot here because we're kind of planning for next year. And in my first few years of running this clinic, I could just say we're trying, but now I have over 100 staff. We're treating 60 to 80 new a week. At this point, I can't look at the community and have a higher number of homeless at the end of this year and not say, what are you doing? So, this systemic issue is now our responsibility because we're now of substantial size to be able to effectuate this change, not just look at how many clients did I get and did I treat them, but how is it helping the homeless situation at large? So we're really, we're at the brass tacks phase of Vegas Stronger right now.
It is the community cannot turn and just avoid that area. You cannot do that.
Right.
That's like sweeping it under the rug. It's still there.
Right. Agreed.
You don't sweep it under the rug, take the rug away and let everybody know that you don't give them money. Don't make Vegas your home, a safe haven to find fentanyl.
Right.
It's not where
oh, bravo.
Awful.
I like that parable of the rural community perspective, because that sense of community that's in each of us, whatever city, whether you're in New York City or you're in Donnelly, Idaho. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's 10 times harder. I mean, even when you just go 20 minutes north to our sister school, McCall, which has we have 150 in our school and they have 450. And they have problems there that I don't have because I'm the only fourth grade teacher. So there are problems, and I'm not saying that why can't you fix it by just simply getting the entire community? We know that it's a multifaceted, multi-layered, massive problem, and it is systemic. It's the system.
Right.
Yeah. And each individual is extremely unique.
Although part of what Dad instilled in me is that even if the system's broke, that if we put our minds to it, we could fix our little part. Kind of like the rigor and fervor that you attack education. The fact that, kids are getting into your grade and they're ill-equipped, and then some don't have the optimal home lives. You don't say, I can't do my job. To me, part of Dad's thinking, which is in me here saying, listen, we have a homelessness crisis, and I believe I have a skill set to be able to effectuate social change. So I think it's my responsibility to work as hard as I can to help solve this problem, just the way you treat, I remember you calling me being like, hey, the school district can't buy books. For Dave, could you help me get books? You're getting it done, whatever it takes. And that right. That's like a beautiful, like an American trait.
Wow.
You took a sabbatical on mindfulness.
I did. I took a sabbatical. I took a 1 year off of work, off of teaching, and I called it my self-care year. So you've just recovered from our Devin getting kidney transplant. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, so I just got double whammied, and it was perfectly timed. So I had put in enough years to take the sabbatical, and I chose to study mindfulness at UMass. And I took it was actually an extensive course in teaching mindfulness to children in particular. And then I went on to I'm not finished with it. You have to do a lot of other things, like a 5-day silent retreat, which I can't seem to wrap my head around. So I have to get that one covered, and I'll do that, but so the mindfulness was excellent. And then COVID hit. So it happened to be, it was in the stars that my life would be set up to do that, because I think without mindfulness, going through that pandemic, and then what we're teaching the 2 years after the pandemic. So the last 2 years of teaching were unlike anything I had in the past. And I attribute it to the what happened during, we were ill-equipped to teach online and have kids prepared to only have the person that's teaching them be in this format. So right. I've had kids like plaster their face against, when can we do this real? When will we be real again? And I'm like, I'm sorry. So yeah. Yeah, there's, my kids are 9. They're 9 years old, and they're like, what the heck? They learning to read with a mask and learning your alphabet. This is not possible. Yeah, it's not possible. Body language, the connection was, they suffered tremendously. And this is the first year I feel like, okay, maybe this is the group that was in preschool. So
they're kind of, okay. So
we're a little bit better.
We're a little better now. These kids weren't as dramatically affected by COVID,
yeah. And it was global. I have contacts with people in Germany and people in China that teach, and they're like, no, it was absolutely global. There was no one that was not affected in their lives. And it's not a generalization. Everyone on the planet was negatively affected by this pandemic, hence pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're recovering from that.
What
was the question?
No, that was, I was talking about mindfulness.
Oh yeah. So mindfulness, mindfulness gave me gave me the tools to be okay with that space and to actually study breath work, study emotional responses, meditation, listening. It's been an all around great enhancer in my life, in my work, and in my relationships with my husband, with you, with my mother, with everyone. Yeah, it has been. I am a much happier person, and I thought I was already a happy person.
You always were happy. You were always a joy to be around.
Yeah.
I mean, since me and you had chicken pox and we were in the love seat looking outside in Hempstead, not allowed to leave the house.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Inside Out?
I don't think so.
It's a Pixar animated film. The Inside Out is your emotions are. If the movie is about they gave personalities to each one of our major emotions,
right,
like disgust and anger and joy and sadness. And so these all have characters. And I often would say, who's driving your console right now? Because they have the console and you've asked people, they say, oh, Joy's driving your console. And who's driving Mike's console? Anger drives Mike's console. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but that's how we
your console.
Right. Right.
Who's driving mine?
Definitely a combination of joy and anger, a little disgust. You got a battling console in there.
Right. Okay. No, I agree.
If you see the movie, and if you're a parent, I recommend you see the movie and then talk about it with your children, because you are the number one teacher. You set the child up to have the mindset that they are going to believe, and I'm going to try to change if it's fixed.
That's great. Who is driving your console?
Yeah. And if you want Joy to drive your console, just take a breath. Breathe out through your mouth. And 3 times, that lucky number 3. Einstein said it. 3 is a lucky number. Or was it Pythagorean? Yeah, it might have been Pythagorean. Pythagoras?
The Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Pythagoras that said that 3 is a magical number. So 3 breaths helps reset your console, let's say, or your emotions, so that you don't respond emotionally. You respond with a good thought, which is what I teach my class. I don't directly teach them about drugs. I teach them how to respond in a healthy way when your best buddy or your sister or your brother walk up and say, smoke this, it's really fun. I don't teach that. I teach responding to negative things in a healthy way.
Well, this is the Human Up podcast. What does Human Up mean to you?
Well, I think that we're all humans, and Human Up is to be the best version of yourself so that you can help uplift others up, because not everybody, some people are really, really suffering. And if you're able to stand and you have the capacity to help another person in your world, then you do it. It's
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was in my 40s when I unlearned enough of what Dad put in my head about the secret to life, which up until my 40s, it was whoever gets more was my operant for living. Trying to
production equals worth.
Yeah. And money, fundamentally. And then shift to actually having a relationship with God and being of service to other humans. And to me, it took me years of practice before I developed a preponderance of evidence that being of service brings me joy. So I learned, one, it is absolutely true. Although it could be, if you asked me what my little message in the world is that it's really in helping others, that joy, purpose, happiness is all achieved.
It's very humanistic, humanitarian.
Human up.
Yeah.
Missy, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
It was a pleasure.
Anything you want to close with, or should we wrap up?
I like it. You're human up. Just step up, human up.
I love you so much,
leave the world better than you found it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, amen. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you for being
Dave.
a guest. It's been an honor.
Bye.